First of all, thank you everyone for showing up. Today, we're doing a Twitter space about Jarvis and what they're doing around the Balance Wars. The idea is to do two things, as always. It's to present a new protocol that's participating in the gauge emissions, and it's to also show you what type of tokens you would get if you participate in their quest. So maybe before starting everything, I think the most relevant thing would be to introduce Jarvis for those who don't know. Do you want to start with this? And yourself, of course.
Yeah, so thanks for having me first, and Happy New Year for everyone to who I didn't have the chance to wish the new year. So my name is Pascal. I'm working on Jarvis Network, and basically what we do is fairly simple. We do non-USD stablecoins and an on-chain forex market. So for who is not aware, Forex is the market where you can exchange currencies, euro for Swiss franc and so on. And basically, we have implemented such a market on the blockchain. And the main use case is liquidity. So let's say that you have $1,000 of J euro, which is our euro stablecoin, and you want to exchange them for Bitcoin, or you want to exchange them for Ether. We don't use an AMM. So what will happen is that it first go to our Forex market. So the $1,000 worth of J euro will be converted for 1,000 USDC or for 1,000 BUSD or for $1,000 of MAI or ETH. It depends which are the collateral approved in the protocol. And then we just do the swap on an AMM. So basically, we by using a Forex on the blockchain, we leverage the liquidity of USDC, BUSD, and so on in order to have liquid stablecoins. And this means that our stablecoins are very liquid. They are actually as liquid as USDC. And this is why we are here today, because we work with other stablecoins projects. Those projects, what they want, of course, liquidity, and they want a strong peg. So when they do a pool with us, so when they pair their token with us on Curve, on Balancer, or other AMM using concentrated liquidity, basically what they want is if people can perform arbitrage, or if they want to leverage our liquidity. So for example, pretty soon we're gonna launch a Euro pool with Mimo Capital and with Angle. Maybe you have heard about them before. They both have Euro stablecoins. And why they would like to have pools with us is because it's often better to swap, for example, par for J euro and then J euro for USDC, rather than doing par USDC directly, because again of our on-chain forex market. And basically, yeah, this is what we do, and this is why we are here again tonight, because we have pools on Balancer, and of course we want those pools to attract liquidity providers, and that's all.
That's actually super powerful. I'm not sure if people realize how strong this kind of primitive can be, because we are yet to have as much forex on chain as we probably expected to grow. It's crazy how in crypto some things grow extremely fast and some grow a bit slower. But I also think that's why it's interesting when we have these resets between bull and bear market, where people can just get back to the drawing board and look at what actually creating value. I know you guys are also working, maybe we can discuss about this a bit later, but you guys are actually working with not only on-chain actors, but also off-chain like companies, etc., that actually use your foreign markets to basically do to swap between different currencies, right?
Yeah, so we try to have an ecosystem on-chain and off-chain. And for now, our off-chain ecosystem, actually you have Swarmy here listening with tonight. So Swarmy, it's an on and off ramp in Mexico. So they use, they basically allow Mexican people to go from their bank accounts to the blockchain. So they sell our Mexican peso for real Mexican pesos, back and forth. We also work with a Swiss entity, Montperin. We work with also other companies to provide indirect fiat on and off ramp. So we work with Monerium, we work with Transfero in Brazil, and so on and so on. All of this is basically to allow people to seamlessly go from their local currency to the blockchain, by keeping their local currency.
Oh, my bad. Small mic problem. I think we'll come back to this because there's a in the balancer world you guys are starting to wage. I think there's going to be a few very interesting topics that can actually be talked about upon this. So for those who don't know me, and I apologize, I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Fig, one of the co-founders of Paladin. We're specialized in building marketplaces around governance and utility for tokens. So unlike Jarvis, we act, especially today, with a lot of DAO actors, so less with traditional businesses. However, what we do right now and why we're discussing today is that we built a marketplace that's been live for the past 7 months. That's one of the 3 biggest marketplaces on this, that basically specialize in buying emissions, vote gauge weight emissions for other projects. The idea and why this is efficient to do is that it is cheaper to buy the vote than the emissions you're getting. So for example, if you're buying $100 of emissions, you're probably getting $200 of, if you're buying with $100, you're probably going to get $200 of emission. There's a discount because not everyone can benefit from the emissions. It depends on the size of their LP or if they just want to replace this with liquidity mining. So usually buying emissions on Curve or Balancer is much cheaper than actually doing a liquidity mining program, which is why there are so many projects that we work on that do this. There's Jarvis, of course, among, but you're going to find Threshold, Liquidity, and Prime DAO, for example. So this is what we do. What we want to focus on today is around the Balancer ecosystem and a bit more around what Jarvis is doing, how all of this is basically being built. Pascal, do you want to go a bit more into detail on how Jarvis could benefit from this and a bit more, I would say, intricate mechanism on how Jarvis work? Or do you want to talk a bit more about Balancer now?
No, we can speak about Balancer, and if at the end we have a bit of time or questions, we can expand on Jarvis a bit more.
Yeah, it's I see that we have quite a bit of people, so there's a really good chance we have some very interesting questions. Okay, so maybe for Balancer is pretty new actually to the Gauge ecosystem. They started 9 months ago with their VBAL token. The VBAL token is basically emitting 35,000 BAL every week. The difference between the Curve system is that it's not just a token that's locked. It's actually an LP token. It's 80% BAL and 20% ETH. So 1 VBAL is not equal to 1 BAL. 1 VBAL is roughly 2.5 BAL when you lock it. That's something important to take into account. And they're roughly emitting right now at current prices $800,000 of emissions every week. And if you look at V tokens in general, the ones that are successful are the ones who emit a lot of tokens. There's no secret because this is when it's financially interesting to actually do so. So I guess if we want to start, why were you guys first interested by Balancer? Is there something that interested you upfront in working with them?
Yeah, so historically, we had our pool on Curve and everything was great. But then there are a few things that I do prefer with Balancer. So not saying that Curve is bad, but for our need, I think Balancer check all the boxes. So the first thing is the boosted pool. It's true that on Curve, you also have boosted pool. So for who doesn't know what is a boosted pool, it's basically when your liquidity is deposited into a money market. So for instance, on AAV, when it's not used. So it's pretty cool because for the liquidity providers, they earn the interest from AAV plus the trading fees. So as you know now, the real yield is a narrative very important. So for me, boosted pool are actually something very important. On Curve, you have them, but it's a bit more complicated to set up. So this was the first thing that attracted me when I spoke with the Balancer team, and they told us that pretty soon boosted pool could become a bit more permissionless, which means that we could have our own boosted pool with our own stable coins. So our stable coins will be both on the money market, AAV, for example, or Midas, and as well on Balancer. And again, now we are trying to generate as much natural yield as possible. So this was very important. Second thing is that because on Balancer, you have many possibilities. As you know, you can create pools with up to 8 tokens. You have LPT pool, you have also reverse LPT pool, you have the possibility to do many different things. And also, like Balancer, we will have our staked token. So we use also the V model, but very different. There is no emission or so on. But we also, like Balancer, have our liquidity on Balancer. So it will be an 80-20 LP token that you can stake. So because of that, we are like, okay, why we don't try to unify our ecosystem around Balancer? So like that, we're going to have our pools, so secondary markets on Balancer, our main token on Balancer, and plus many other things that we want to build on the top of Balancer. And the second, so this was, let's say, the first big reason. The second another reason is that when you create a pool on Balancer using LP token, and those LP token are already a BPT token, so Balancer LP token, the Balancer router actually automatically routes the swaps between the token that are part of the LP token. So an example, if I create a pool with, for example, LP token 1 and LP token 2, then I can exchange the token from those different LP tokens between each other. I don't need to do extra code. And on Curve, it was not possible. We had once a pool with LP token, and it was a mess basically because we needed to create extra code. So this was another reason. And the third reason is that as soon as you have a pool on Balancer, it is automatically added to all the aggregator, which also is not the case for Curve. We always had to, for example, ping Paraswap and say, guys, can you please add this Curve pool to your router and so on and so on. So for all those reasons, it was very valuable for us to move from Curve to Balancer. And then you have other reasons, like obviously Balancer is smaller than Curve. So you always feel that it's easier to work closely to a team from, let's say, smaller project, even though Balancer is still a huge project. But as compared to Curve, we had the feeling that the team was more approachable. And this is also why we moved there.
That's interesting. I think there's two. The reason why they're more approachable is maybe that they actually have dedicated DAO group of, which is called the Bouncer Maxis, that do BD, do all of this community interaction. I think it plays a big role. We interact a lot with Solar Curve and Mike, and it's a pleasure to talk with them on a day-to-day basis. So I was absolutely not aware of these routing questions, and it gave me a lot of questions myself on what could be done with Jarvis on this. I think something that's also very interesting, and that kind of changes the game around the bouncer games, is the fact that when you look at emissions, for example, on Curve, maybe 98% of them, maybe 95 now, it's probably lowered a bit, is happening on Ethereum. On Curve, on a Balancer, it's a bit different because you have T2, and T2 now has something like 18% of the emissions. So it's very interesting because Curve Balancer is much more Polygon native than Curve. Is that something that you appreciate, or do you think this actually has an impact on people who are in Polygon and who would be interested in entering in when they have to choose an AMM going into Balancer?
Yeah, I think it helps. I mean, I think on Curve it's also possible, but maybe the ecosystem and the inflation.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah,
it's possible. It's just projects are not coming to Curve specifically from L2s to get emissions.
So yeah, I think it's obviously Balancer for me is doing a lot of smart moves. I was not aware about these those DAO groups, but now that you say it, it's true that yeah, it was easier because I had few people to speak with. They were super fast to respond. They actually help us. They gave ideas. So I had the feeling that okay, we are doing some partnerships, and I like Curve and so on, but it's true it was way harder to communicate with them and to also get fast explanation. So maybe one cool feedback for every big project like Curve or Polygon is that yeah, they need a big biz dev team to quickly answer to our projects, and this could help to keep people or to attract new people. So yeah.
To be clear, I don't think the maxes are exactly BD. I think they're like the executive committee. They're like a 5 to 7 big delegate group that does that. But in general, yeah, that's the way to go forward in terms of decentralization, because it allows Balancer Lab to focus on development while they can focus on actual DAO to day-to-day activity. Of course, you need to be able to of a certain size to do that. But I think it's very interesting. I think something that we could delve a bit deeper into is, why are you today entering the Balancer war? I remember you telling me that there was a significant amount of gauges you wanted to deploy and to go on Balancer. Is it because you have a very significant number of foreign currencies that you want to deploy on Balancer?
Yeah, so this is the tricky thing. In my dream, we will deploy all our pools on Balancer, but we have a lot of stable coins, and we also have a lot of different pools. So for example, we have the stable pools. So stable pools are the one what we do with our projects. So for example, right now, we have the one with the Brazilian real. So we do it with Transfero. The next two votes, as I said before, will be regarding euro. It will be with Mimo and Angle. But this is just the beginning. And ideally, we should have maybe, let's say, 10, 15 pools, and it can actually go way more as more and more player comes into the play and wants to do pool with us. So right now we have one gauge, which is live. The voting round for the emission finishes tomorrow. But we just learned actually that on Polygon, when the round ends, you only start receiving the emission 1 week after. So there will be a 7 days delay before the yield really starts, but it is what it is. And then yeah, we're gonna have our euro pools. Then we would like to deploy other pools, but those are less of a priority. Each pool, for example, with our stable coins versus ETH or versus USDC, or we'll wait when boosted pool will be possible in a permissionless way. And ideally, we would like at the end of the day to only have boosted pool. So like that, we have liquidity on money market, plus we have the trading fees, plus the liquidity for swap. So this is how we want to move forward with the Balancer pools. And of course, to have gauges every time for all of those pools.
Wow, you guys aren't kidding when you're saying we are Legion. It's we're going to see a lot more of Jarvis onto Balancer. That's actually very interesting. We've been.
Sorry, Romain. The cool thing also,
Uh,
because most of
Go
those
ahead.
gauges, they are for stable pool with other projects. It helps us also with the budgeting for voting incentives and so on, because we are not the only one, who are buying BAL token, or who are having bribes and so on and so on. We always do it with another project. Like Transfero has a budget for this. Mimo has a budget for this. Angle, we spoke with them. They are thinking of having a budget for this as well. So this is also good for us, because we will spend way less for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, I have a bit of a mic problem. No, that makes a lot of sense, because instead of having to carry the whole burden of incentives, you can actually share it between people. Plus, partnerships are probably the way to go in a bear market. Like we better stick together and build as much as possible, because that's our opportunity. There's going to be a lot of opportunities that are going to appear. We've already talked a bit about Polygon and Tattoo in general. I do expect a lot of projects to start actually looking at emissions on other chains that Ethereum, because gas is still too expensive to do a lot of stuff. For example, our community has been asking us a lot for a pool outside of Ethereum, and we totally understand. Maybe in terms of incentives, would be interesting to talk about what your what your incentive strategy is, and more in general, what you can say publicly about this. Why do you think Quest would be a reliable choice to use it? Just for reference, guys, Jarvis has created a Quest last week. It's 48% full right now. So if you have VBAL and you want to get USDC, now is the time to go and get some incentives there.
So for the Quest, so as I said, we have acquired BAL token. We also have acquired Aura. We have acquired T2. And of course, we want to bribe because it's never enough. We, as you all know, bribes are a bit more efficient. So when it comes to bribe, we actually didn't know at the beginning what will be the best approach because as you most know, the balancer ecosystem actually for bribes is a bit more dense or more scattered than the one for Curve on Ethereum. And I knew about Quest for a while. I never digged into it. And this was a good occasion for me to start comparing the different solutions. And what I understood when I dig into it, I loved it because it's a possibility to have a budget and to know exactly how much you spend for how many. And this was very good because when we work with a partner on the Brazilian real pool, as I said, it's Transfero. Transfero, it's a licensed and regulated company. They have compliance officer and so on. So when it comes to the budget for bribing, I had to present them some financials and numbers and so on. And it was very useful to do it on Quest because I just told them, look, guys, the first week we want to play very small. We want $50,000 of liquidity, not more, just for the first week on the pool, just to see. And we would like to pay around 20% of APR. And so we knew that to get 20%, we needed, I don't remember the numbers, but let's say 5,000 VE-BAL who vote for us. And we said, look, we already have acquired VE-BAL, VL Aura, and VET2. So there is a few thousand of votes that are missing, just those few thousand. So we knew exactly how much votes we needed to reach our target of APR. So it was very straightforward to go on your app and just say, okay, we need this amount of votes. It shows you how much it will cost. It was actually a good surprise that it didn't cost as much as what we expected. It was $200 basically. And we were like, okay, let's create the quest. And this is how we did it. And this is what I like, this, the fact that, again, you knew how much you needed, you knew how much it costs. And then I just went to see Transfero and tell them, okay, look, those are the numbers. When you bribe another product, so for example, we also bribed on Techu. In the future, we would actually have a comprehensive bribing strategy where we bribe a bit on different places. It was not as straightforward because we used a quest to know what will be the most efficient bribe. So we spent, for example, $200 on Techu for the bribe. But we don't know what to expect. We know that the $200 on Techu could be lost, for example, if we don't reach what we wanted, and we don't really know how much vote we can get or so on. So this is what we liked a lot with Quest, this kind of predictability and the fact that you can really know how much you pay for.
Yeah, I think especially in the current market, it's quite efficient to be able to budget a bit more accurately your incentive strategy. Something that I wanted to touch into before letting maybe everyone ask questions, because I realize we've already been speaking for 30 minutes. This is what happened when it's fascinating, right? It's around Jarvis and all of the foreign currencies you guys are building. Would there be a way to incorporate a balancer pool? For example, when you have one token, for example, let's say PAL, and it would frictionlessly swap between PAL and all of the different FX. So for example, I don't know, we have PAL USDC, for example. If we're on Polygon, could we have like a pool that would basically communicate between PAL and Syntherium or one of the balancer pools, and that would enable us to seamlessly swap PAL between any other foreign currency? Or they say differently, can anyone that could onboard a currency through Angle, through Monerium, through Swarmy, and directly buy PAL with their foreign currency with as little slippage as possible?
Yeah, so it could be done two ways. So either directly on Balancer, because the other pools that we do with Balancer is our LP token as paired with the USD boosted pool. You know, it's the one with USDC, DAI, and DAI and USDT that is both deposited into AAV as well as on Balancer. So it means that using the Balancer routing, you can actually go from PAL to USDC, USDC to the boosted pool, and then the boosted pool to any of the stable coins. But this is not the most optimal path because you have slippage all the way. So the best way is actually to use our own router, which are smart contracts, which combine balancer with our protocol. So if you want to go from euro to PAL, or from PAL to euro, the most straightforward way to go, if you had liquidity, for example, on balancer, will be to go from euro to J euro. This can be done using Monerium at a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you have 10,000 euros, you send them if you create an account with Monerium gives you an IBAN. So it's your own IBAN. So you send 10,000 euros to this IBAN. They support instant SEPA, so it could be done in like 3 seconds. So 3 seconds after the euros arrive in your IBAN, then in the same minute, the euro E are minted directly in your Polygon address. And then you can go from euro E to PAL. And how does it work? So we have a contract which it's like a PSM. So you can go from euro E to J euro at a 1-1 ratio. So the 10,000 euro E becomes 10,000 J euro. Then the 10,000 J euros are burnt to redeem the USDC behind. So it will be 10,000 euro of USDC. And then the USDC are swapped on balancer. And so this is basically how you can go from PAL to euro or euro to PAL by using us as some kind of liquidity infrastructure.
Wow, this is actually insanely powerful. I think a lot more people who, when they're going to start looking at Polygon and they're going to see this, they're going to see that there's a really strong use case to basically onboard and offboard towards their token. That's actually really powerful. Is there something you want to add, or should we maybe open the floor to questions?
One last thing that we didn't mention. So our project, we mainly focused on the protocol so far. So we worked on making the protocol working, and now we have 2 updates that are coming. So the first one is basically to scale the protocol, because as of today, the protocol needs liquidity to work, but only one liquidity provider could exist. And now we have audited the code for the multi-liquidity provision system, so anyone will be able to provide liquidity, and we can grow easier in an easier way. And the second big thing that we work on, it's our token migration. Until today, we just have a governance token with no utility, nothing, just here for voting. And we're going to migrate to a utility token. And one of the use case of this token is actually to boost the reward of liquidity provider in Jarvis. And for that, we have actually the same system as Curve and all the V model. We have boosts as well as voting power, and we have delegation. And so why I mention this is because what we want is passive Jarvis holder. They will basically sell their boost. They will delegate their boost to active liquidity providers who will use them to earn more fees or yield and so on and so on. And then we will need a market to basically sell those boosts or those votes and so on. And this is where Paladin comes into play. We already spoke with you and your team a while ago about it, that we don't want to do ourselves the markets to sell the boost and so on. We want to work with projects that are already in place and they know how to do it. So yeah, this is basically how I wanted to conclude the space, that we want to work with Paladin not just for Quest, but also for our own token when it will be ready.
Yeah, and for those who might have missed the news, we just added 3 new markets to boost. So this is more a question of time than anything else.
Yeah,
okay, let's open maybe the floor to questions, guys. Are there any questions? It's always weird. There's a lot of people listening in, then there's always less people asking the questions, and then they come on Discord and ask the questions. The people are shy.
Yeah, I never ask questions myself when I participate face to face.
Yeah, that's true. Me neither. It's always a question of time. So we're maybe going to wait 25 more seconds, and then we're going to let everyone go. But anyways, we're extremely glad to see Jarvis enter the world, because it's a product that we have been following for a while. And it's typically the type of project that people have been sleeping on because they've been looking too much at the bigger APR, like the very flashy projects. And there's some very powerful use case. I don't know if you guys have this problem, but I have this problem with my circle of friends in finance. They come in and they tell us that DeFi has no real world use case. And then you see a few products like Jarvis, like Realty, that actually have been here for a long time and have been able to already create this real world use case. I think it's really important to not just shine a spotlight towards them, but also start using them, start to think how we can work with them, because these are actually the projects that have real use case, literally. So it's important for us to look around all of these and to start working with all of this, because it means that we're creating substantial value in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Go
It's
ahead.
also because we are all projects. Our token is live for a while, so we had this issue that we couldn't print new token, or when the DeFi summer came, we already had most of the token already in the circulation, so we couldn't do high crazy APR by giving away our token. We couldn't attract new people with a new emission and so on. So it was a curse back then, I think, but actually now I see this as a blessing because. But we will have a VE model, but without really token emission. And I think on the long term and medium term, this will play well when you have token that cannot inflate, only deflate. So yeah. So now we just change the token to have starting from a new, let's say, new sheet, and to have the tokenomics incorporated into the protocol, but we never did it before. So
Yeah, that's extremely interesting. It's true that for projects like you guys who have already seen one bear market, you're more like the beam. Here we go again than anything else. Like, I know what to expect.
yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. I hope you learned a few stuff like we did, and you had a nice time. Feel free to ask any question. Maybe Pascal, where's the best place to go ask questions about Jarvis?
Yeah, best is Twitter or our Discord. On the Twitter, you will see all the links.
Yep, perfect. And same for us. If you have any questions, Discord is always the best place to go. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Enjoy your day, guys, and see you soon.
Thanks, Romain. See you. Bye.